Welcome, everyone, to another exciting edition of Heavy Revy TV. We are your hosts, Brian and Shauna Christian, and we have a wonderful couple with us today, Nico and Serenity Morales. Is it Morales or Morales? Am I pronouncing that right? Morales. That's right. What I thought. All right. And you guys are so amazing. We have been watching you on Facebook and YouTube for quite some time now. And finally, we have the pleasure of a face-to-face and some co-laboring together to unlock the mysteries of reincarnation, not just from the way it's been spoken religiously, but from a whole new side and flavor of the eternal and the quantum that I think is going to be fabulous as this is unlocked today. So we're just encouraging everyone, tune in, hit notifications, like and share, because you're not going to want to miss this. And for all of my beautiful Christian brothers and sisters out there that might think I've gone off my rocker by doing a video on this, relax. This all flows with a finished work, a completed work, the lamb slain from the foundations of the world, and it's all good. This is all just about entering the mind of Christ and entering the reality of who we truly are. So let's get started. And Nico and Serenity, I just want to release it to you right now and just get us started and tell us what this reincarnation thing is all about.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. We love Shauna and Brian very much. They've impacted our lives a lot, just as it has everyone else. So thank you for having us here as well to share in this glory together. It's amazing. And just as I was saying to Shauna and Brian earlier, that we had some people tell us, hey, slow it down. So I'll try my best. Most of the time it doesn't work. Look, it's happening now. So you want to go ahead? So what Serenity did is she prepared a little something, because I like to go raw into things, and but sometimes we have sensitive crowds. So I'm going to go ahead and have you start off if you want.
Yes. So we created some key points just so that we can make sure that we can relate to you guys and stay on track with you guys as well.
Definitely.
So many people ask about the after-death fate of themselves as a human being. Eventually asking themselves, what is the purpose of living? Basically asking themselves, is there life after death? While asking these questions, fear drips in, because there's a lack of knowledge. Because of fear, we tend to avoid this subject entirely. Even now, it's frowned upon to even debate or even to talk about death and the soul. Everyone understands death in their own way. Even atheists understand that death is complete disappearance of the body.
Yes.
And decaying of the body. However, we may understand death, but we do not perceive it. We understand and we are aware of it, that it's out there, and we acknowledge that death is inevitable. That everyone and everything dies. That everyone and everything dies. But we don't realize that we will die. And the funny thing is that we don't want to understand this, and we don't want to admit it. For an example, even when we go to a funeral, even if it's just a family member or a friend, when confronted with death, an inner fear is created in everyone, because we are kicked out of our comfort zone by reality.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We create a certain comfort zone inside of our consciousness, where our consciousness tells us that everything will be fine, that we are indestructible, that we will never die, that yes, the body will die, but that we will only enter into sleep and nothing else will happen. Everyone hopes and prays that death will affect them, that death won't affect them. And we understand and we know theoretically, but internally, we don't believe in this. We don't believe in this, and we don't know what happens after death, because our words are also perceived very critical by our consciousness, by our primary consciousness, while secondary consciousness tries to argue against us.
That's good.
All right. So I'll go ahead and
powerful.
It is, and speak on this now. So we'll start off like this as well. Before the 8th day of a baby, when it's born, they have a primary consciousness that starts developing in the utero. And on the 8th day, they receive a soul from the spiritual world. And this soul projects out a spirit, is who we initially are. And it sits 1.5 feet above the human head. So with this, when we have the spirit above the head, then we have secondary consciousness. And a lot of people get their identity from secondary consciousness, as in the system of the world, and how we evolve more than a primate, from primary consciousness from a primate. And primary consciousness is pretty much the tactical senses, how we perceive the 3D world here. And the secondary will help us evolve more, which makes us different, of course. So when we're living, when we're paying a lot of our attention, when we're investing a lot of our life force into temporary things, into the material world, our spirit ends up merging with the matrix or with this world or this system. And it ends up becoming a clot, informational clot, since this is information out here in this world. And it sits on the film of the soul. So when a person dies, their soul approximately takes 12 minutes. And this is measurement by a Christ quantum physical particle that we could go on later on. But it takes 12 minutes to reach its next destination. And it usually spends the least amount of energy to get there from the opposite sex, religion, and race. So these are some great examples we can use is when a baby becomes a little older, when it gets to the age of 6 and it starts to tap into secondary consciousness now to evolve a little bit more. Its silver cord has been loose, so a lot of children remember their past lives a lot. And then when, let's say they're watching something on TV and there's like an ambulance or a fire thing going on, and I remember being in a burning building or anything like that, they start to, those alpha brain waves, they start to remember. So it taps into them. Now, since that spirit, that person that died before, you ever see somebody with like split personality, the movie Split? He had multiple different personalities. And there's this meter, it's like called electro something. You remember the name?
I know what you're saying.
Yep. And a sectogram, like that guy, Billy Milligan, they did a sectogram on him too. And it runs like a fingerprint. And it shows in the brain that it's completely a different person that's happening in there. So these past lives, once they lose contact with the soul and the deepest feelings of love and joy and gratitude, they become pretty much an evil spirit. They pretty much are attacking the person in any way, shape, or form. Symptoms and signs are sleepwalkers. Symptoms and signs are people that become very aggressive in a way where they have tunnel vision and their consciousness becomes locked instead of expanded. And what happens is it's eating the crumbs off the master's table. And that's why Jesus called that lady a female dog, the canine woman. He says, you're a adulterer, a fornicator, and a murderer. And she had to really press in with her genuine willingness. The disciple was bashing her back and Jesus bashing her back as well. With this is, I don't want to see if I'm going too fast or too much for people.
Let it flow. That's why you can replay later.
Exactly right. That's a good one. So, so with that, once these past lives, they even on older people, you can see how their faces change and all the rest when they're in like, group homes and stuff, and they start to act like different people. But there's either an active one, and a lot of people, majority of people have them, a dominant one or a sleeping one. And how are these come about? That guy, Billy Milligan, he had about 24 in him. He had some that were a medical doctor, ones that spoke different languages. He didn't have to learn them on his own. Some that knew how to control the adrenaline within a human body. And he had all this type of things. And a lot of maniacs like that, that end up killing either young women or children, because they carry a lot of the power of Christ, a lot more than men. That's why women live longer as well. And that's why they use someone like Jesus to come and bring the message of God, because his body's more durable than a woman as well. Because you know what would happen to young children and women if, being caught for that type of work specifically. But women carry, of course, a lot of Christ. So this as well is, I don't know where to start or where to go, how to flow with this, but I'm just going ahead and speaking. So once when someone dies and they pass away and they paid majority of their attention, they didn't even give a tithe or 10% of their first fruits of love and joy and really living like this, then they don't even have peace in their life. And we're showing that there's also a second death of the prana, because I've done a lot of studies of debunking hell, and so have you. And we took this stuff really deep. So on the soul, these past lives, these sub-personalities, these split personalities, these spirits that lost contact with the soul, they end up living on top of it. And like a film on soap bubbles in a way, you can see like reflections. And it's like the Abraham story as well, where they can see heaven and hell together as one. So this fire prana is and they lose their body, of course, because they don't have a body. So there's this fire prana, and they're able to have these emotions and all the rest. It's like the weeping and gnashing of the teeth. And a human lifespan on average is 1,500 years. So just like people like Billy Milligan, whenever they're scaring somebody really bad, people that are victims, they dump out a lot of fuel, a lot of life force, a lot of virtue, up to 20 years at a time. And the past lives end up getting about 10% of it, and about 5 years out of 50, and it prolongs them to keep going and to keep going. So Jesus spoke a lot about let the dead bury the dead, and etc. And how this stuff operate and happen in our life. When we're watching deliverance ministers, they don't know what's going on. Most of the time, they're actors on a stage, and they'll say, Sarah, and this. I thought your wife's name was Tina, and I'm like, it is. But there's a 300-year-old woman in you, and different things that you see in there that that they're getting, but they don't actually know what's happening and what's really going on. So they love to take the attention away from the person's spirit to see if they're going to choose and gain eternal life, to merge with the spirit and the soul, where their energy structure will change into the New Revelation cube, or in the Quran, the Mecca cube as well.
Sure.
So
yes.
I'm going to pause there if you want to keep going.
Well, no, I'm just intrigued. Yeah. I mean, I watched some of your series on consciousness. I didn't get through all of it, but I really enjoyed it. And you're hitting a lot of points here, because you're unveiling the whole journey of the mind and consciousness, and what we kind of choose to perceive at different levels that are allowing us to experience, whether it be illusions or truths, right?
That's right.
And that really is the heart of discerning this. And I think where people get stuck in the box of being afraid of the term reincarnation, and I know for us, there is definitely the religious version. I mean, there's a religious version in everything out there.
Everything.
And so, and so with me, the problem was the whole thing of, in a sense, not measuring up in one life and having to come back, and maybe if you screwed up, you come back as a cockroach, and don't step on that cockroach,
right.
Aunt Edna.
That's my old cousin.
Yeah. And even though there is a truth in that, it was more or less reduced to time, space, and matter, and to, again, back to a third density or third dimensional. I kind of use those words, interactive, a third dimensional perspective of coming and going. But just like the fifth dimension, or 5D, 5 density, reincarnation is a completely different place, because you're not actually reincarnating, coming back and forth. You're viewing points of yourself as those reincarnations, almost in the form of thought, divine thought and memory that's lived out just by observation. And so you have this whole oneness aspect in which you are living out the generations, and then you have the human experience in which you are ascending and descending into this place of, constantly energy cycling itself through, because that's really what we are. When it comes down to it, we're all just straight up divine energy of love. The greatest energy is love. And so energy never dies, it just recycles. And I had this encounter a few weeks ago that really kind of prepared for this time today for me. And this encounter that I had, I had entered into this place of consciousness looking into itself. And the consciousness was the higher consciousness. It was the cosmic Christ consciousness of oneness.
Yes.
And in that oneness of invisibility, there was nothing visible there in the sense that we think, because there was no thought to manifest form. There was a knowing of all things. And in this knowing of all things, consciousness looked within and became aware of itself as subconscious. And the subconscious was actually all the different densities of not just spiritual activity or spirit essence, but of spirit essence slowing down to visibility biologically and manifesting out in form. Okay.
To serve you.
Yes. And as I watched this, I entered into my life, and I'm watching my life from my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Almost like if I pick up a cell phone and I'm watching a video,
Exactly right.
that's my human experience here, and this is my life
Yeah.
gazing in, right?
Yes.
And so I'm watching this, and as I watch it, I realize that the whole landscape, my pets, the trees, the flowers, all my friends, is the internal dialogue of me looking back at me as I'm moving through duality as a catalyst that first reflects out, that now begins to go within and discern this higher consciousness looking in. Okay. So, it's almost like, reminds me of Proverbs, where it says, he that gives the right answer kisses his own lips. You ever been able to kiss your own lips? Well, yeah, when you're actually aware from a higher awareness gazing in, right? And so what I saw was my dogs, everything was my life force, because your life force and my life force is one life force in the oneness aspect that is expressing itself on all these different levels of expression and diversity and response that never really had a beginning or end. So, before I used to think, well, God became human. Okay. And we can look at that through a timeline, but time is really just a tool of unveiling everything that's been known in a relational interaction, where consciousness that knows all things cannot be relational or capture a moment, for the moment is all things. So therefore, the dividing up of moments allows us to put on the fullness of the Godhead bodily, or expand beyond what invisibility could not even do without the visible interaction. And as this went deep, I realized that everything around me was all my past lives that were manifesting not just through people, but through the knowing of all things, now manifesting as physical matter, which was my life force smeared through a timeline. And so I'm looking at my dog, and all of a sudden I begin to feel me from a past life, not even in the form of a dog, just manifested presently as a dog, gazing at me, and me beginning to remember. And then I'm like already in a future life, looking back and catching an epiphany of being Brian Christian in this life.
Right.
So all of this is kind of happening at the same time.
There is. I love what you're saying. Even the different levels of observation, as you're just explaining as well. And you reminded me as well too, when you were mentioning a lot of things. I like to say on we're speaking on the soul here. When you were mentioning a dog as well, there was a guy named Duncan McDougall in the year 1007, and he was studying the soul as the vital energy life source. And what he noticed and discovered is really cool. So he started weighing babies on the 8th day, and also people when they pass away on the day of their death. And he noticed that on the 8th day, they gained 20 to 30 grams of weight, like a hummingbird. And then when they die, they lose 20 to 30 grams. So he's also tried this with plants and nothing happened. He tried this with dogs and nothing happened. And it's also like the Bible on the 8th day and circumcision. And the 8th day, the Jewish people give a name to the baby. That's when they get an identity and all that stuff. So it shows in different observations, because we have all this informational field everywhere. And this is where we have the oneness of information there. And then we have the oneness with human beings as well, as we have a spirit and a soul, and we all do. And but not everyone gets their identity, from that. We always move different perspectives and we shifts. And when we're in deeper dialogue like that, do you want to speak more about the soul or something else?
Speak a little bit more.
Okay. And the soul being the portal to the spiritual world. In the Bible, we have it different from where we get is, or ways that I used to believe, is that I am the soul. And if you remember those things back in the days, I am the soul, and then
body,
and then
soul, spirit. Yeah.
Yep.
So now, where are you at on body? So I mean, I know in a third dimensional experience, which is really just thought. This is the thought realm.
Right.
3D is the thought realm.
The mental body thought realm.
The world is
3D.
framed by the word of God, right? And so the framework of time, space, and matter are a big part of this. Kind of like proving quantum physics in a gravitational third dimensional grid is a limitation of quantum physics, right? It's just seeing about 1% of the reality of what we're standing on and diving into in that reality. And so I know that on the third dimensional perspective, we have three. We have body, soul, and spirit. We have Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We have faith, hope, and love. We have power, love, and a sound mind.
And then we go beyond those dimensions, right?
Yes. And, while the fourth dimension for me has always been, I've always looked at it scientifically as the dimension of time. But I'm realizing now that it's actually not a dimension of time. It's a dimension of the shadow of time. And the shadow of time, which I think is also connected to the valley of the shadow of death in a sense, when viewing through a third dimensional grid at the fourth. But when looking from the fifth to the fourth, it is simply the shadow of that which has already been known and realized. And it's actually the shadow of your higher fifth density self gazing into that which is already complete, but creating a shadow for your third density perspective to journey into the ascension state of consciousness.
It's funny because
what do you think about that?
As in the words that are used in like different places, like shadows, and another one they use for like the fifth dimensional body is a template body, like a shadow, like a template. Or the fourth dimensional body would be the chakras, the meridians. You open a human up and you're not able to find that stuff in there, and because of the dimension behind it. So we don't even have the tools in a three-dimensional world. And even the sixth dimension will be mastering the emotional body and mastering that there. So there's all these colors and blue grids and all these different things when you go beyond into deeper realms of consciousness. So with it, there's also the energy structure of a human being at the sixth dimension, because the one dimension is like the point, and then you get into the bar, right? How that moves around. But when you get to the sixth dimension, it shows like in ancient Egypt and all over the world, the pyramids were always truncated. They never had a top. They put on Mount Giza a top on there, but they always never had a top. And same with us, we have an energy structure at the sixth dimension that's like a pyramid, and on the floor is like the cross. It's like an X down there. Wow. So Paul says the foundation of the cross at our feet, and it has like the four sides, which could be the four gospels, and it goes deeper into metaphysics, But above here, there's a gap here of secondary consciousness, the field, and right over here, like the all-seeing eye, is where the spirit dwells, and these thoughts that come in and how we respond to them. It's like here's a good analogy I want to use, actually. Like I have a light of my soul right here, and then my spirit's like a mirror. I can run an ecosystem, take more of my love, give me more of you and your holiness, and I can just keep going and dialogue and having fun. Yep. And I live out the deepest feelings, and then, or I can change my mirror and have my light shoot out into anger, murder, wasting things. And then I'm taking Christ and I'm using Antichrist for it. And
that's right.
God is in, through, and as all things. Everything's working together, for those that live in love and synchronization. So whenever we're taking the power of God, it's all held together by Christ or Antichrist, no matter what. And it's always going to teach us and grow us and learn us, of course, with it.
Wow. Yeah. I heard, I forget who was saying it. It might've been Lipton, Dr. Lipton, Bruce Lipton. I'm not sure, but he was talking about how we actually have protein sensors on our skin that actually is like an antenna to where it's pulling who we are as spirit that's actually not bound to a body. And so we're this body is more or less the TV screen or the TV, and who we are is like the satellite beaming in to such a degree. And again, without, what is it? In our body, it's what, 99.999% empty space. Yeah. And so, like, for instance, if and we're getting to reincarnation, everybody, we're building something here.
And our life is 80% MySpace and Facebook.
That's good. That's good. But like the difference of living in a 3D compared to some of these higher dimensions is, if I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my fridge, which in an RV, it's right there, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, boy, I'm hungry. I want to make a sandwich. I have to get up and drag myself through space and time to complete that thought. Okay.
I forgot people still did that.
Yeah, exactly. What are we thinking? You know?
Yeah.
But to actually perceive being hungry and needing a sandwich is actually another version of me serving me with the very sandwich I thought of without ever having to do anything but remember it. And so we're bypassing the need for space, time, and matter. Now, space, time, and matter is a tool. It has its points. So I don't want people to go so completely to where they despise their third dimensional human experience, because even though this is the hardship realm specifically designed for the intergalactic council and the beings that are multidimensional and that are all over, not just here, but this is the place to come and become an ascended master. This is the place where you pass through the hardship realm to break through the core and to awaken to some of these higher densities, in which we, even in the form of some of these light beings from other universes and multiverses, are us gazing in at the same time. And so we have all of this that seems to be, I don't even like to say the term hierarchy, but a hierarchical kind of leveling up at one side from a timeline version
to use,
or tiers in which we're leveling up to this living creature covered with eyes, full of eyes, moving within wheels, gazing at itself as an extension of itself. And I think that when we get to the deeper levels of reincarnation, where, and in this encounter I had when I was beholding consciousness as the ultimate, and what I mean by that is not from this brain, but just the divine consciousness, that in that place, if divine consciousness did not have the interaction of the visible and the densities, then consciousness would not be conscious, because it's only conscious to be conscious of what it's conscious of. And if there's nothing to be conscious of, then it appears to be void and darkness.
There's no programs.
Yes, exactly. And so when I experienced that, I realized that it is simply the intricate design of consciousness, and that just like how our brains work and our cells work, that at a subatomic level, we are strings of light, and that we are simply, based on the evaluation of our environment, we are manifesting in form, but are really just simply vibrating light. And
the essence behind it all
is vibrating light, that when we enter that state, it is simply light cycling through itself and expressing itself, just like you would see the motion of how atoms move together, right?
Or some glowing jellyfish behind you.
Yes, exactly. I experienced those too, but they're likened unto jellyfish, but they were different. And I was going to ask you, I know this is a little off topic, but in one of your videos, you shared about how in the 3D, the organs of the body, maybe they keep us alive here in a third dimension, but in other densities, they're actually doors, right? They're actually empowerments of higher levels of consciousness, right? Could you touch on that just a little bit?
Would love to. It has the micro and the macro work as well. So a lot of people would love to hear this. So remember when we were in the store, I think it was last year in Colorado, and we started seeing those big old crows that we thought were ravens.
Oh, yeah.
And I walk in the store, and I'm walking, and I always feel light when I'm walking, and I can feel things around me on purpose, of course. So I feel the proteins of my eyes were attracted to the light of vice versa. So she was looking at me and I was looking at her, and it was a divine appointment, and she was the cashier register lady at the gas station. So when I walked up, I felt a tension, like an energy tension in my stomach region, my solar plexus area, which is like control or power. And I felt it more in my intestines. So I said to her, is your car is in the shop right now and it's totaled? And she's like, yeah, do I know you? How'd you know that? And it's funny because when I was walking, I was grabbing something first, and I just seen her gossiping, and it reminds me of Proverbs 18:8, and it says a gossiper will receive ulcers in the stomach region or holes in there. So I know that
Wow.
she's tearing up her electromagnetics. She's not putting on the full armor. She's walking in the spirit of error, glitching in the matrix. So
Ooh, that's good.
so I knew her transportation, her transportation, because we use we use intestines to teleport liquids to solids, right?
Yeah.
So we also use this in our metaphysical abilities in our school. We use our intestines region to teleport an object from there to there, like in a millisecond. And we're actually focusing on this region and this chakra, and we use a code through it by the essence of the feeling. So how it all relates is really amazing. And then I think I probably blessed her stomach and gave her a word so she can work on herself in that area where she can stop destroying herself, because we end up being our worst enemy, of course.
That's right.
But that's a great one to bring up, and very important for people to realize as well, about not just on these dimensions. They call them in the Chinese medicine thrones, right?
Yes.
Throughout our body, or some people call them seals, or different parts of our organs that vibrate. They said, I think it's 70 through something else frequencies or hertz for cancer to exist in, and each organ has a certain frequency or hertz to it. But
That's right.
if we start having hate in our heart instead of love in our heart, then the frequency goes counterclockwise in our chakra that comes from an endocrine gland. And we're sending out these signals. And then our bodies are sending out signals and indicators, of course, saying, hey, walk in alignment. And the whole 9 yards of it, right? If we just relax our body, we feel what we're feeling, we're experiencing what we're experiencing, and not trying to change it, but to observe it. And that observation brings revelation, because it's like a meditation, and revelation brings us conviction to repent, in a real spiritual way, to open our hearts up again and to continue reigning in life.
Wow, that's beautiful, because I remember you had said that your digestive process takes matter, solids, and turns it into liquid, right? And the fluidity of who we actually are, and not like water, like wetness fluidity, but the fluidity of sound and frequency and light, which is who we are. It's almost like a portal. And I was doing a little research.
Also 5D, the sound
5D,
waves.
yeah.
Yep, 5D. Yep.
Yes, exactly. And so I was listening to some stuff on, cells, and how we have, what is it, over 50 billion cells or something like that in our body, with the full potential of another human, including thought, and
a brain, immune system.
everything.
It's a person, a noun.
Yeah. So the many as one, or the Elohim, is the reincarnation of the incarnation that is constantly cycling itself through. And and so it's really powerful to think about that, because I believe within our subatomic particles are wormholes to other realms and dimensions that we're actually gazing in through and influencing.
Yeah, we do gaze through observation. Yep.
Yes. And of course, having the memory of all humanity within our DNA, and also having DNA that has been written off by scientists for a long time as just leftovers that are now being connected to what some would call alien DNA. That's been there, and kind of showing us, who we truly are. And I just encourage people that are watching this. I know there's a lot on here watching, and I just encourage you just to have an open mind. And we're not nobody here is trying to convince you to believe anything we're saying. For those that this might be strange to you, just realize that we've got to let go of the box. And I encourage everybody to go before the Father, go before Source, go before whatever you call the reality of who you are in the fullness of oneness in Christ. Okay. Go there and let go of all cultural definitions of God. Nothing wrong with it. It's going to find its place, because we understand is
God's
every religion is really, a lot of it's a third dimensional opinion of God, and it's us trying to grab our wholeness by creating a God that looks like us as wholeness. And and there's nothing really outside of yourself. And once you kind of strip all the cultural influence off, and you see the raw version of divinity, you will no longer be offended by everybody else's different truths or cultural influence, because divinity clothed itself with human perspective, not for the purpose of facts and truth, but for the purpose of interaction and embrace of family. It was really about being built together. And I remember I saw every revelation I had being blown away as dust in the wind one time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck, God? Am I not supposed to be, was I deceived? Am I not supposed to be teaching this? And he just laughed and he said, no. He said, you can teach it all you want, because all the truths aren't really the truths you think they are. They're truths that are leading to an interaction, which is the embrace of love, which is the truth.
That's right.
And that all the stuff we're sharing definitely is validated, but there's a greater thing going on behind the knowledge of the exchange, but the seeing of one another, the remembering of who we truly are, and the embrace of the adventure of the journey. And that's what makes revelation worth revelating about.
Right.
So it's just really beautiful. It's really beautiful. So give us the rundown. When you die, Nico, or shall I say when you transition, because death doesn't exist. And really, there's no such thing as the fear of death. I'm realizing it's the fear of letting go of what's been known as reality in a third dimensional grid is the fear, not really death itself. But when you transition, what do you experience, and how do you cycle back?
Definitely. So when someone does pass away and they have not merged with the spirit and the soul, and they'll lose their three-dimensional self, they'll only live once, pretty much. They'll have that one death. They'll lose their three-dimensional self there, and this will get transitioned over as an informational clock. So when they go into a new body, the soul, with the past life that merged with the matrix on the film of the soul, and it goes into the 8th day of a baby, that baby now receives a new spirit, a new personality, its own self, while there's this old remainder stuff in here. Now, the thing with it is that we don't have to do a ho'oponopono on this. We don't have to reprogram the subconscious mind. We're just like the lotus, and we pay directly attention by living in the spiritual world, by sending the deepest love and the deepest feelings, by walking and living in the presence of God, service to the spiritual world, studying consciousness, and really living in love is the way to gain eternal life, as we're doing. And when this happens, we can burn off all that old informational clock, because that's what it longer becomes, because a human is really nothing without the soul connected to it. There's really no marriage. There's really no oneness on there. If a person just has their personality, but they don't have the deepest feelings, it's like someone that doesn't have a soul. It's like saying someone that doesn't live by love or joy, as we heard those terms before, right? Like an animal.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so with that person, like there was people like Dalai Lama. They have a whole entire thing going on where they do a reincarnation thing where they have to find his next life within the 12 minutes, not in the 12 minutes, but they know it's getting transferred over, and they usually have babies set up around that time. Hitler did the same thing. They killed a lot of soldiers. They had a lot of babies that are on the 8th day, so they can reincarnate them for super soldiers. And they'll hook up with the Dalai Lama and the monks and the whole 9 yards of it. And what they do is really interesting is they have to find that child before the age of 5, before that secondary surge hits them, because they're going to start forgetting about their past life. So they have this very planned out, very well and strategic, and they do find them, and they will find them, because they have like henchmen that they send out there to go get them. So when they have this going on, Dalai Lama talks a lot about consciousness. He talks a lot about that there is no God, and he has a deep hatred inside of Buddha as well. But you can tell that he's dead when you look in his eyes. It's like when you look at a baby on the 8th day, you can see their eyes bright up. And when you look at people like those lives and Billy Milligan and Hitler and all those that ran such this knowledge with the way that reincarnation works. But the real definition of a true reincarnation is whenever we don't let that past life dominate us, that we're living, we're incarnated in that sense, when we have a fresh, brand new spirit.
Yes.
And we're living in those by the deepest feelings, shedding off all that.
Okay. All right. So you just shared the one side. Now you got to tell me the other side, because I'm getting really excited here. What does it look like for somebody who has merged, who has ascended into 5D or a higher consciousness before they transition? Do they even transition? I think it's obviously possible to put on our
Yes.
bodies come subject to immortality at some level, or but what happens if they do transition? They didn't get to the point of incorruptibility in their body, but they did in their mind and heart. Do they move on to the light and become kind of the life force living within other lives, or do they again return in physical form, or do they come in as like a light being, or as a star family or starseed? How does that connect?
Good question. I love that question a lot. So 3 ways to answer it I have so far is when someone gains eternal life and the spirit and the soul have merged and to become like an allegorical angel here, because a human is dual in nature, as an angel and a demon in a sense. So and heaven and hell like existing in one spot as well. So whenever this is going on and their energy structure has changed, most people that gain eternal life, they'll transition in their sleep. And there's 3 ways of going about it. So if someone gives 10% of their life to the spiritual world as a universal principle of the tithe, then they'll have peace in their life. And when they're transitioning, even that past life would be in sleeping mode. And if someone given more attention and they're becoming an angel in a sense, and what happens is they'll call them Bodhisattva, or they'll call them the Christ. And this soul on the 8th day weighs 50 grams instead of 20 to 30. And they're coming, directly from the spiritual world, incarnated as a messenger of God to bring a collective, even though a lot of people are going to twist the messages and everything behind it as well. There's also these beings that are born in the spiritual world and never being human, like Archangel Gabriel or Michael, where people have these NDEs encounters with in these times, just like Allah, Muhammad. It says that he reached the lotus of the utmost boundary. He was dialoguing in a lotus, where he was pretty much sending deep love in his soul. There's an old practice where you put a lotus seed in your soul, and you send love, light, and you feel it growing deeply within you. It comes into a sprout. And I was saying in my last podcast, every time you get angry, or every time you switch the position of your attention away to the material and forget about you being a green thumb within, then you're weathering the plant. And it really destroys our personality in a sense, and the way that we function, because we're getting our identity from a lower realm and acting like a beast and an animal. So to go further in that question as well, there's some people that transition on that will pass with no disease or no trace of anything in their body as well, which is very wild and intriguing.
Yes. Wow. So, one of my experiences I had, and again, I'm you guys have researched this a lot more than me. We're newbies at this, but I've had some experiences that have answered some questions, and I'm kind of looking for how it's mirroring with what everybody else has been getting. And so like I had this near-death experience without having any physical issues, and I died. Okay, this is about, I don't know, 3 months ago, something like it. Anyway, to such a degree that for the next few weeks, anytime I'm walking around, I kept wanting to look back to see if my body was on the ground. Like I was like not anchored to this dimension, It's kind of freaky. I actually had to get a cosmic session done, because I ended up going reverse in the multiverse and was being affected by the DNA frequency of the memory of the generations that was within me. And it was kind of making it into a dualistic experience. And so I was like, I don't want to experience eternity anymore, So there had to be some adjusting in my mindset there. But okay, where was I going with this? Because you know where I'm going with this, right? I just lost my train. What was I going to say? Tell me.
You were talking about dying.
Okay.
In your experience.
Okay, so in my experience, there we go. In my experience, I died, but I was never really born, but I was. Okay, so it was this thing where it was just a thought in the divine consciousness that was lived out just by thinking it, right? And so in one sense, it was just a dream, but in another sense, I literally lived it out, right? And I'm there, and I'm watching me out on the lawn with a friend of mine hitting me on the chest because I'm dead, and Shauna on the phone calling 911, freaking out. But I'm in the bed looking at this from another realm. I'm in my room, but my room ain't my room. It's just all these colors, and it's rushing, kind of like Star Trek when they go into hyper.
Yeah, exactly right. I know what you're saying. Oh yeah.
Light speed, and everything's just doing this rush forward. but it's not going anywhere because there's nowhere to go because it's everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
This is all happening, and my wife is there in a glorified state, but she's me, and everybody I know is there. And every time we would look at the devastation on earth, we would look and go, isn't that beautiful? And then we'd all rush forward in this exhale of unconditional love. And it was almost like it's what extracted the realm of love was all the polarities that gave love an expression.
Yes.
And so everything really was good, you know, in that sense. And so so I'd be torn. I'd be going, wait a second, I didn't get to say goodbye. My poor family's going through it, you know? So I had my ego separation mindset fighting. And then I had who I truly was gazing. And anyway, through all of that, I began to realize, and this is part of the leaving again, transitioning from this life, that it's almost like to the degree you've been able to accept everything as love and forgiveness and forgive anything you've held against yourself, because really forgiving others is an automatic byproduct of forgiving yourself. So we don't even have to try to forgive others when you don't hold anything against yourself.
Exactly right.
You know, and so it really is the being able to catch the glimpse of everything is beautiful in everything you walk through that allows you to kind of pass on into the light, if I can put it in that language.
Exactly.
And that as we pass on to the core or to the essence, we then become, in a sense, as the Bible would say, the cloud of witnesses. And the cloud of witnesses to me are not surrounding your physical you. They are literally the clothing of you. Yeah. So your armor is one another in the essence of oneness, right? And
so far the greatest revelation that I've ever heard in a 3D of the cloud of witness. That's a great one. I love the deepness of it.
Yes. And so you know, in the cloud, and we're in the cloud. So you know, we're in the cloud, and the cloud is in us, and Jesus comes in the clouds. And so you know, that's really this whole sonship, you know, manifest sons of God that are coming forth right now. You know, and so, you know, when you read that in Romans 8, it says all creation is groaning. Yeah. And then it says the Spirit groans within us, right? Interceding in the midst of infirmities. And those infirmities, I believe, are mindsets. I believe it's perceptions. And I believe a lot of times what we're going through internally in our groanings of subconscious self-sabotage and lie-based thinking is it's manifesting outwardly as all creation groaning. But the groaning isn't the focus. The groaning is giving place to manifestation of your identity, your sonship. And that's happening at a greater level when you transition, that it's kind of breaking that out. And as you know, a lot of science says is that the brain is alert and aware for 7 minutes after you're dead.
Yeah, 7 minutes.
Yeah. And so could it be that 7 minutes is the life that we're actually living now? And that we weren't really born to live a life, but we were actually, where it says, Colossians says, put your mind above where you died. And that death was really referring to immortality, putting on mortality. And that we're just simply living in a 7-minute window that's stretched into the 70, 80 years that the average person is living. And so it's kind of, I know I've kind of jumped around here.
It's like saying they say a mosquito lives only 1 day or something like that. I heard before, like 22 hours.
Yes.
Or something. So
what is a lifespan to the mosquito's mind?
Right. But our perspective is, the mosquito's got eternal life.
Yes. And so if you transition and you can't fully embrace everything that happened in your life as love, you have to cycle back through that third dimensional grid, not because you've got to perform to measure up, but because it is guaranteed that you will get the truth. And there's no way to escape the reality of the full embrace of love, no matter how many times you must cycle through it.
Exactly. Like it says, clean the inside of the cup so the outside will be clean. Yes. I did this morning with my 3D body. I had to do a number 4, not a number 2. And the groanings and the moanings were just flowing out. And then to the pure, all things were pure when I hit flesh.
Hey, man, that sounds like bowels of mercy to me.
I know, right? I'm just getting people ready for lunch. I know lunchtime's coming up for certain time zones that are on the live. I can sense in the spirit they're licking their lips.
Yes, right. The glory of the Lord is my rear guard. Just got to turn the other cheek, brother. That's all.
Right. The cloud of witnesses.
I think it's interesting because
Oh, good. You finally got
Yeah.
to share something. You guys were
I
quiet.
had to sneak in because you've got, okay, I'm probably like many people on here listening who haven't done the research or haven't had any experiences that we're consciously aware of with the idea or the concept of reincarnation. I think like many here that are listening, they are curious to the concept, and like you talked about a little bit earlier about the only reincarnation that I have ever heard of is kind of like you missed it, you failed, you got to come back and do this cycle again, being born again in another body, but you as spirit is the same person having to learn or get something that you didn't get. And so I always felt like that concept was missing something, obviously the divinity of God and being one. And so I've always had that question as far as like, well, I'm not going to debunk it and say, okay, reincarnation isn't real, but the concept that I've been taught was very limited. And so I kind of like the idea of where is the redemption in the idea of reincarnation? It can't be that you're just coming back to get something that you missed because you failed in like this negative, connotation of, because in a lot of ways I look at my life and it has been the grace of God in so many areas because I couldn't make myself awaken even if I tried. That's right. Because I tried and I couldn't make myself wake up.
The same thing she's saying, right? Saying the same exact thing. So, man, amazing. Let me know when you want to talk to keep it rolling.
Now, somebody had a question here, which I thought was good. What if there is no time for you to cycle through? That's a wonderful question. I know we already kind of hit on this, but and I want you to share on this as well. But before you share, I want to give a statement that at the ultimate level, Julie, it's not about cycling through. It's about consciousness becoming conscious of itself and therefore interacting as subconsciousness within its own conscience. And so it's a cycling through of itself that maintains the expansion of divine thought and divine reality. That's at the ultimate. But so again, time being the illusion, becomes a tool in the posture of this quantum realm that we're talking about, and how we are constantly not cycling through because we screwed up or we didn't measure up, but we're cycling through just like light is flashing inside your mind as thought, off of the synapses and just it's just light reflections and expansions. That is a more of a higher perspective of reincarnation, but at the visible biological densities, we are experiencing it as coming and going. I'm the son of man that came from heaven and is in heaven, quantum entanglement, and so how would you answer that? And either one of you or both of you?
I think you said something. I think you said it great. What if there is no illusion for you to cycle through? The way it was there is like saying, what if there's it's pretty much you're at a place of God's rest and grace right now if you're in that perspective or in that position, because there's a lot of illusions if we think about our 9-to-5 job and etc. Even the body and everything else. So that was a deep question that answered itself. Thank you for sharing.
So Serenity, what are you getting from everything we're talking about?
What do you think about all of this?
What do you think?
Well, because I know a lot of us talk about reincarnation, and I feel like more of us believe in reincarnation more because we fear death. And we make reincarnation our goal, but our goal is to to reach, obviously, to reach a higher realm. We and with reincarnation of the and personality through that second death, but our goal is to reach the higher realm. So it's, you know, what we do here on this earth right now, that continuous dialogue with God, being a loving being, living through feelings instead of emotions. We're never meant to live with emotions, to not live like this materialistic, beastly life that we have now, but to say, you know, I don't need to be reincarnated. I don't need to be purified. I'm a particle of God. I'm going to dialogue with God and love God and live my lifestyle as God, so that reincarnation is not an option for me, but is to reach that heavenly, you know, that higher realm, the higher world of God.
That's beautiful. Daniel Somerville, you know Daniel Somerville, right, guys?
Yes.
He's an amazing brother. Daniel Somerville asked the question, how does the Starseed concept work? And now, how does that work with reincarnation? And have we already kind of graduated from reincarnation if we're moving in a fifth density, you know, starseed form or star family? What do you guys think about that? I'll let you guys.
What is the definition of actually the Starseed concept? Are you familiar with that too?
No.
You got some tourists on here with that question.
Okay. Well, I'm just new to that as well, so I'll do my best. In my experience, when I experienced aliens that I didn't believe in, light beings.
I hate the word alien.
Yeah, alien.
It's got a wrong connotation.
That's
of like
true. You just think about
like,
green cards.
Yeah,
or something.
like these beings coming to get you, and I mean, obviously, the concept, the fact that, you know, we are multidimensional.
Yes.
And yet we want to throw out the concept of having other multidimensional beings.
Yeah.
When it, you know, so I think they're basically talking about multidimensional beings being here in our humanity experience.
Yeah. So we're not waiting for a visitation from outer space. They're already here. We're connected, and biologically, our DNA is. I believe our pineal gland is part of the hybrid human race, connected to some of these star seeds. Some would say we're a direct incarnation of star seeds. Others is a hybrid. Others is a projected avatar in which
I get it.
They're projecting and using the you know, some of the plant medicine we're dealing with on planet Earth that is helping people break open the pineal gland and consciousness. I believe is directly connected to the mushroom not originating on Earth, or some of the plant medicine not originating on Earth, but actually being brought here. And as a point of the telepathic link with these avatar human experiences in that sense. And it's actually one of the oldest stories ever told. If you go back beyond the Bible, before the Bible, you're going to have some ancient texts that deal with other races that came here, other, you know, beings that came here and to mine the earth, and that human beings were brought forth through them. And that, in fact, that's where you get also a lot of your mythologies out there, is they became worshipped and this type of thing. And maybe some of those light being races did have an agenda, and because of also being in biological form, but some, you know, didn't. And so just like on Earth, you have humans that some are awake and some are not, and some are jerks and some are wonderful, you know. And so you also, I think, have that universally in the sense of, you know, life everywhere else as well. And I think right now quantum and science is catching up with some of the new spirit language and revelation that's coming forth. That there seems to be a revival on all sides coming together in that sense where we're starting to break through into more, I'll use the term alien
intergalactic
technology.
friendship.
Yeah, intergalactic friendship. And so when, I'd roll my eyes when people would talk about aliens. And this is literally a month ago, I would roll my eyes.
My ovaries used to flex and my uterus used to bounce when I used to back in the days, but now it's different. That was my past life speaking through me.
I love it. I bet people trip out on you when you say that. But so for me, this experience was I came before an intergalactic council and they said, hey, we're the intergalactic council. I hadn't studied anything. And they were, I saw this being with a lion face, a being with a cat face, the alien we normally see, which I guess they call grays,
the elephant,
the one with an elephant trunk. And then I saw two of them that looked kind of human, one with a blue face and one with a little taller forehead with long blonde hair. And the one with the blue face and the one with the blonde one was a guy or appeared to be masculine and said he was a Pleiadian. And the blue one said they were, what was it? An Andromedan, I think it was, or something like that. And said it was more of a feminine. Yeah. And they said, hey, we're your parents. Right. I'm like, what? And they said, come with us. Let us unlock your mind. And next thing you know, I'm on that planet and I am experiencing my entire life lived that actually planned to come here and incarnate in this dimension to heal the earth and bring it to a higher frequency. Now, this is an encounter I had that even after I had the encounter, I'm sitting there going, is that real? What just happened? And so, Arcturian, that's it, Daniel. And so, and I know this might sound strange to a lot of people, like Brian has flipped his lid. And I'm not an alien worshiper. I'm not, creating a religion around it. I'm just throwing out the possibility because we know the possibility of life somewhere else is definitely possible. And who are we to think that we're the bully on the block here, and projecting this propaganda that aliens are coming to kill us and destroy us when maybe they're the ones that help kind of set up a lot of stuff. And they're willing to come and protect this planet so that us humans and politicians don't destroy it. And that they're here to upgrade us. We're here to be upgraded, guys. And immediately after this encounter, I started getting transmissions. Yes. I started channeling. And because I've walked through a journey of being mentored by the cloud of witness. I mean, I've spent months with Elijah, with Moses, with Enoch, with Gabriel, with Paul, with many, right? You know what I'm talking about.
100%.
But remember, to the degree they rose up wasn't to the degree we're now operating. And so in the glorified state of where they kind of finished their course, they brought us from the 5 sense realm of the carnal mind into the beginnings of enlightenment, in which some of these light beings now, which are a higher form of that same cloud, are now coming to upgrade us to the next level. And that's been my experience of it. I don't even know if I answered the question, but
hey, it's like almost, what was the question? No, I'm like, you did. That's how I am too. And I ended like that as well, like you do. That's so funny. Man, you said a lot of great things as well. We can relate with a lot of the stuff that you've encounters and everything else. A lot of them, they're mind-blowing and unbelievable and stuff. It's real wild. We come from a whole family of it. And like, for example, her and I, we've met in a 9-foot extraterrestrial Draco that wanted to eat our brains out. And it was a long encounter and pretty wild in the flesh, in person, right in front of our front yard. That one was real wild. Wow. And even though I was in dialogue, I could still, sense the fear because I had to mature myself up more. Really, it's different when it's in real life. It's like 8 grizzly bears, 9-footers, all in one body in a way with technology. You know what I mean? And smart. Yeah. So it's a whole another level. And then we also have an Anunnaki friend as well. She is incredible. She has her own UFO craft. We FaceTime, and we learned a lot as well. But real close friends. But real encounter, as in physical, and it's really neat on the 3D. And it's wild because we say 3D, but when we have these encounters, these are actually 4D, and they're actually realer. But it's by faith and how you grasp it. And that's the wild part about it all.
Yes.
Yes.
Because it's all still, in a sense, a parable, even though it's in the physical or the, I don't know how to explain it, because I'm like,
you know what?
There's still a
Well,
bigger.
there isn't actually a physical.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying.
You know what's wild that you say that? It just made me think of something. And Revelations coming here is really great. It says all Jesus spoke to the crowd. Remember, this was in the multitude were in parables, and then the rest of the disciples, they had it. So as you're saying that, he's actually giving the deeper stuff to the crowd.
Right.
Yes.
It's the opposite of what we're thinking.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
there's a bigger meaning even to what we are experiencing and our own understanding, because it hasn't been unveiled yet.
Yes.
And so we can have an experience even spiritually, or an encounter or something like that, and it's still being unveiled, even our own understanding. So even what we think we know, it's going to change and evolve, and give it a month, give it 2 months. Right. It's going to constantly evolve. And so I feel like me and my posture is to not disregard what other people have experienced, even if I haven't experienced it. Because the need to disregard the idea of reincarnation or light beings and all these other things comes out of fear and of not knowing. Yeah. But let's be real, people. There's so many things you don't know that happen all the time. And so disregarding things.
People are racist. Right. They meet an extraterrestrial hanging out with Brian, and all of a sudden they don't want to be Brian's friend.
They think Brian's lost his marbles.
Yeah.
And maybe I have, but I prefer to lose them.
Right. Right. And so I feel like definitely being open and checking yourself that because when he was talking about aliens, I'm all, okay, that's cool. You're an alien. I'm not. And I had to be real with myself and be like, okay, well, why don't I want to even hear this knowledge? Why don't I not even want to hear any of this stuff?
Yes.
Because I had my own fears and my own conclusions of what I don't know.
Yes.
And so I'm sure everyone on here has had different types of experiences that they don't have understanding.
Well, it doesn't match up with the conclusion of the program you were taught too.
Correct. So you've got that, and then you've got people who've had other experiences and they don't have understanding, and so therefore they don't want to hear other things because of a limited understanding. So I had to be real. I had to check myself and be like, okay, why don't I want to even hear anything about these light beings? Why do I not want to hear about reincarnation? And it had all to do with my own conclusions about me. Yeah. And what I had to do was I'm talking to God, and I just like, all right, it's all in you. Yes. All of it.
Oh, yeah.
Even all the duality, all of it is in him. It's all one. There is no separation in this. So if we can be open to the idea of what is possible, just let it be, and not have to try to conclude or understand it. Just let it be as it is. Then we can realize the oneness and the fact that it is all in him. Yes. And so with that concept, I was able to let go of me trying to understand anything.
Yes. Now, Joel had, not to interrupt. Did you want to respond to that? I don't want to.
Oh, yeah. I like the fact that you became an alien to yourself and then that's how you embraced it, because it was going to uncomfort zones. And
right.
Wow.
You became it.
So she's an alien after all.
That's right.
But she's a legal one, not an illegal one. So anyway.
I know, right?
But Joe Smolligan had a he says, what if it has nothing to do with reincarnation in the sense of, I think the label, but it is actually biblical, and just possibly by the grace of God, we are simply seeing what is written in heaven, as it says in Psalms. There is a book in heaven with it's going up, but let me just see if I can add it on here. It's going to cover us up for a minute here.
That's fine. Good.
As it says in Psalms that there is a book in heaven with every day of our lives that we should walk in it, because this is a mystical realm of Galatia, in intergalactic realms, and all else is exactly what the Greeks worship, as you said, Brian. We are humans having a spiritual walk, whether it is the kingdom of Is it like open more there? No, I guess that's as much as he can write. Okay, I guess there's a limit on how much you can write. All right.
No,
So
no, there's more on the cellular version.
oh, you can see it. I can't see it on mine. But I get the point. Do you want to read the rest of what he's saying?
Yep. It says, and if you are good enough, you can be gods, and then put or you can start it from where you want. Stop so you can
Start at we are humans having a spiritual walk.
Good.
We are humans having a spiritual walk, whether it is the kingdom of darkness or the kingdom of light of his son, Jesus Christ. Joseph Smith had encounters as well, some being called Marani. Now millions believe Jesus and Lucifer are brothers, and if you are good enough, you can be gods. Point is, if it doesn't line up with what God through his prophets taught of who he is, simply fact, he dismissed it. Lean on the truth, Jesus Christ is Lord and he is love, and not on your own understanding to understand that which you can't, which make him worthy of our worship. The one who is outside time, space, and matter. The bigger meaning is to become love and leave the galaxies to the one who created it, who is outside it. But honestly, guys, I feel bad for everyone listening to the nonsense when they are searching for healing and it's only found in Christ and him alone.
Yes. Now, I do agree with the fact that it is found in Christ and Christ alone. The problem is Christ has been defined as one human being to worship, which is exactly what we've been having problems with all the time. Kind of like with Moses. You talk to us, Moses. You be our God. And so again, needing an in-between as though we are separated from God. So Jesus came not just for us, but as us, and he came to reveal who we've always been. And so Christ is not Jesus' last name. Christ is the Elohim, the many as one. And Jesus was simply, I'll just put it this way. Jesus was a man sent by God, God becoming flesh, and not the only one. He is the example of all humanity as God becoming flesh. He didn't come to be a superstar. In fact, he never wanted to be worshiped. He even withdrew when they wanted to crown him. Okay, he pointed to the source, the Father, the one that carries all identity as the one, and we are the many representing Christ. Okay, and so the old school version of Western culture Christianity, I believe, will be completely wiped off the face of the earth within the next couple of decades, and it needs to be, because it hasn't produced anything. So in that, nothing against what the comment was, but I get really dedicated to answer this one, because this is one of the reasons people are not experiencing healing, is because the things we're talking about are not talked about enough. And it's actually reversed, because yes, everything is written in the book. All our members were written in the book. We spoke often one to another in the fear of the Lord in what was written in a book, because we knew we would put on amnesia, that God would go into a dream state and experience himself in this time and matter state of consciousness.
That's right.
And so, ultimately, everything is written, and we are now reminiscing in the very thought of divinity and having a moment with that thought as a timeline. And so as we begin to unveil that reincarnation isn't about what we've necessarily learned in a third dimensional grid, but more from an eternal oneness, a quantum, and a higher density, it reveals that that is the book written, and that we are now cycling through the interaction of everything that's already been experienced at a level of divinity, and are now experiencing the finite counterpart of expression. And so it's important, and I'm glad that people are coming on here. So we appreciate you, Joel, coming on here, because you're on here even though you might not agree with it, and that means that you're neutral and open to hear what's being said, and we appreciate that. And so, but that's where we're kind of at. And what's great about it is I can love you even if I don't agree with your truth. You can love me even if you don't agree with my truth, because if our relationship is based on our doctrines, then it's
Yeah.
never been about love. It's
Yeah.
it's been about surface stuff. So
That's
why do we gather? And we can only gather together if we agree on our truths. That's nothing to do with love. We gather because of love, and we stretch each other because
Yep, stretching each other is love. Yep, it is. It's your love to stretch somebody. Yeah, because a lot of times for the people where they come from different churches, we're always going to choose love first, but we're not going to be a doormat like we used to when we were growing through this thing. Because what happens is we end up having a lot of milk come all from our breasts, and they drip, trying to feed the church a lot, and we're walking around very saggy, claiming immortality and eternal life. Right?
Nico and his visuals. I get you now. I get you. Okay.
Because I really get the point. So we're gonna walk in love and look and be perky because we're tired of being stretched. So now we're gonna stretch them, give them a dose of their medicine.
I'm such a visual person. So
eye for eye, tooth for tooth.
The El Shaddai, right?
Yeah. You two are like related in so many ways. I'm like, I get you, Serenity. I get you. Okay.
My wife will be out in the crowd when we're doing gatherings, and I start to talk, and she'll be going, "No, don't do it. Don't say it." And I was in a Church of God.
Oh my God.
A Church of God, old school Church of God. And the pastor and his wife, we had ministered there a few times, but we were bridge builders. So we just spoke their language where they were at. And I had just deconstructed demons in hell, right? And as they've been taught. And anyway, the pastor and his wife, they had some situation with family members, and they just opened the church, had the people come, we trust you. We're not going to be able to be there. And next thing you know, I'm flowing that there are no demons like we've been taught. There's no hell like we've been taught. And she's back there. But you know what? Everybody was so drunk in the spirit. It didn't matter. I could have preached on Mickey Mouse and they would have said
yes, I've seen him do that a couple times where everyone was just like gone in this realm. They were just like, yeah. And then afterwards they're like, yeah, I got attacked by demons. And I'm like, oh, they didn't hear your message at all. Like,
just put in one ear out the other.
But it was an encounter and experience.
It was.
And that's really what it's about. It's not so much what we're saying or whatever. It's can you experience the heart behind the message?
Exactly.
Which is love.
Right. Exactly.
And so
I know we're gonna
they did sit through it and it did.
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and sum it up here. And so I'm gonna give everybody a couple of minutes to kind of finalize. But before we do that, I just want to state, and this is also for Joel's question as well, of how the infinite needs the finite and the finite needs the infinite. Because the infinite, I remember back in Charismania, the infinite just meant, oh, it's beyond what you can know. It goes on forever. And the finite was us looking through kind of a keyhole, not really kind of like a dumb state. We're just finite. We can't know divine things. Yeah. But really, finite is connected to constant change of expression and motion, and infinite is connected to sameness and consistency in a paused state. And so the infinite is the consistency of the nature of divine love that never changes, but would never be able to express without the finite motion and expression that is constantly changing. Yeah. And so the finite has always been in the infinite, or consciousness would never be conscious when it comes to the divine mind of God. Oh, yes. And, and so like you said earlier, brother, we're learning not to be welcome mats in this demonstration of revelation, but when it comes to, and I totally believe this, it didn't work for Jesus. Okay, let's just be straight up. He got killed anyway. Okay, and Jesus is telling a generation of captives who have lived most of their lives in captivity under one nation or another to turn the other cheek and be a welcome mat again.
That's right.
And I think it was an introduction into growing a backbone and learning how to be their true selves. And we take what Jesus said as the finality in his human experience when it was just the beginning. And as he is, so are we. And we need to enter the glorified state of the law of the Spirit and step out of the just human form state
That's right.
following the Son of Man's advice, because we were never meant to pattern that. We were meant to pattern as he is.
Exactly. That's right.
And the as he is not turning the other cheek to be the welcome mat, and it's not having a, chip on your shoulder. It's going from left brain to right brain, and coming into the creative state of consciousness and entering into manifesting the frequency of light that you are, to simply shift form and to recreate and to connect this collective consciousness, to where we wake up to it. And so, my whole definition of love has changed, where I had to let go of my old definition, and I'll probably have to let go of the one I'm in now when I come to the next place. So guys, if you feel like, and I saw a lot of comments here, if you feel like, well, I feel like I'm back in preschool, like I'm starting from scratch. You're not starting from scratch. You're going from glory to glory. You're graduating into another whole season of fun and adventure, of experimentation.
Which can be like preschool.
Which is like preschool, but be as little children.
Right.
Stay in the preschool mindset of teachableness and awe.
Yeah, because preschool is like home for the children and not a chore.
That's right.
It's play.
That's right. Exactly. So, honey, what would you, to sum up everything that you got out of this, what would you say would be something that would be helpful for those watching?
I think I already said it. Just having that open mind. And again, if you are questioning anything, do the research. Go look it up, search it out. If you're interested in it. If you're not interested in it, then so be it. There isn't a measuring rod that anybody has to live up to. It's really, if you're interested in this, go search it out. Go look. Yeah. Go talk to people. Be open and have that open mind.
Go within.
Yes. Yeah. Go within and ask. That's what I had to do. If I had to be real and honest with myself when I was not wanting to hear anything about anything and want to be in my little religious box and in my mind. And just learning to be open and letting people have their own experience. And I don't need to do anything or be anything to anyone. I get to have my own experiences too. And I love what Kathy said. It really does have to be your own experience. Yes. And religion wants us to have conclusions and boxes and compartmentalization for everything. But ultimately, this journey is about love and loving yourself and loving those around you and being the highest version of yourself.
That's right.
So
that's beautiful.
We're encountering that, figuring it all out as we go. But thank God people are waking up to that reality that there is a higher version of ourselves. Amen. And it isn't limited to this dimension. That's right. And that's really what we're waking up to.
Yeah, taking off the limitations.
Right. Take off the limitations.
What about you, Serenity? How would you like to share the last few minutes here and sum it up for us?
Well, I totally agree with your wife. It really takes for us to get kicked out of those comfort zones. Make yourself uncomfortable. Do something that you don't really do. Dig in. Be hungry. Want that dialogue with God, and just keep living with love and try to observe emotions and observe what is for you and what is not for you. And continue walking in love and leaving yourself open so that truth can always come in. You can evolve and you can ascend.
Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful. What about you, Nico?
Yes, of course, everyone's saying it perfect. Even you, before you even spoke, perfectly said, Brian, as well. You're part of the 7 minutes of the brain I'm quantumly entangling with. I love everyone said that's so perfect. I want to go ahead and answer Taffy as well, and just about healings and miracles. Yes, this is all part of it. Someone was talking about Paul and healing with the shadows and all the rest. Those are just metaphysical abilities. It's just it's consciousness. It's using it as a tool. You can use it as a tool to heal, but most importantly, it's the salvation of your soul in a sense where you don't have to pray. It's like seek the kingdom first and all these things will be added to you. Just walk in your identity, be your true authentic self. And healing comes like this. We did a video called How to Stay Healed yesterday. I think it was 2 hours long with Daniel Love. If you want to check that out, Taffy, you can. It's very powerful. A lot of word of knowledge on a lady. Says, since someone has lupus over here, and this lady said that she didn't confirm. She ended up, I know she got healed when she's going to get a report, and a lot of other people that were on there, but they really were positioning themselves and engaging with who they are. And really, you got to watch that one if you haven't. I don't know if you guys seen it. It was powerful.
No, not
powerful
yet.
one.
Yes.
It was a whole nother,
watch.
Yes.
But hey, this is great. What I like to say is that we're tackling such a sensitive subject that a lot of people will not. A lot of people, because all ancient, where it's real life, this stuff shouldn't be ignored. We should have primordial knowledge. We should be educated, and we should know what's really hanging at you, Jeremy. Chill out, baby.
That's right. That's beautiful,
Brian. Yes.
So Nico, how can people get connected with your ministry, with what you're doing? Do you have a website, a link that people could get involved with what you guys are doing?
Definitely. Thank you a lot. I'll say first things first is everyone writes in the chat, I love you, Nico. And that's an automatic connection.
That's right.
So we got theschoolofmystics.com. We're teaching people how to fly, how to teleport, how to heal blind eyes, broken ears, ripped off jaws, incurable diseases, and a lot of identity and telekinesis and all that cool stuff. Really studying consciousness as a spiritual observer, teleporting stuff and using the microscope or analyzing things and trying to go further within yourself.
I think that is so amazing, and because you guys are demonstrators and manifestors. And so you're not just teaching something, you're acting upon it. You're bringing the manifestation of it. And that's what I love about you guys. Well, just the fact that you're just so lovable anyway, but that's another story. But if you guys, one of you could type that in the comments. I don't know if you can you comment right now where you're at and put your link in there, and everybody just, reach out and get involved.
I love it. Everyone's saying, I love you, Nico.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And some are saying, even though I've never heard of you, but now you have.
Yes.
And so you got some more extended family connecting with you, and we definitely feel connected with you. And you guys are amazing.
Yes.
And we just so appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your day to be a part of our journey as well. And I tell you, we had a lot on here just totally drinking. And it's funny because I think we need to hear more on these subjects as well. We need to let go of the fear of deception,
right? And
become more receptive. And so totally believe that. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Please like and share. If you want to check out our website, it's above at foggm.org. Pretty soon it will be changing to Life Imagined, which is going to be the new name of our organization. We're kind of letting go of the concept of ministry in that sense of the word and going deeper into non-religious language and opening up a fuller, all-inclusive realm of interaction within what we do and who we are. So we appreciate you guys. We love you. And we'll see y'all soon. I think next Thursday, real quick, right? Next Thursday is when we come on?
Yes. Next
Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to have Daniel David Oskopensky on with us, talking to us about his upcoming album and everything that the Father has been doing in him.
Yes.
And so don't miss that next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will see y'all soon. Love y'all. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks so much. See ya.